Hello and welcome to the PumpkinCopter cast. I'm joined here again by my good friend Ben,
Hello, everyone. Pleasure to see you again.
and as you all know, the Nintendo Switch it recently got a whole lot more information that we've been able to sink our teeth into. I'm excited about it.
I'm also excited too, though admittedly not without a couple reservations. Nothing too serious, though.
Yeah. First thing I noticed was that, quite a few of the accessories and extra controllers were quite a bit pricey. And I'm worried that might stop people from being able to get enough controllers needed for a big local playthrough with friends.
Yeah, that was definitely disappointing and more than a little surprising that the charging grip for the controllers is around, I think, 25 US dollars, and that if you want to get an extra controller, it's about 80 US dollars. I get it. This isn't going to be cheap. No console is what you'd call a low cost investment. But if the idea is that they're trying to bring back the local multiplayer craze that made the Wii such a hit, why would they make it so expensive? Even PlayStation and Xbox controllers, last I checked, those go for about $50 to $60. It's still a lot, but it's noticeably cheaper than the Joy-Con.
Well, I guess all we can do is hope that they'll take down the prices a little bit as time goes on. I mean,
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if when the holiday comes around, once they've got a few more games available, they'll include some in, say, a Mario Kart 8 slash Splatoon 2 combo bundle. I think that would definitely help them shift some of the 40 million units this one analyst said it was going to do by 2020, which is an improvement, though it's not going to overtake the PlayStation 4.
yeah. And, that's even though some people might have to make further purchases in order to get the most out of the Nintendo Switch, at least initially, I think like the Switch's price itself is fairly reasonable at like around $299 or 300-ish US dollars.
Yeah, it's reasonable enough. But the thing is, the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4, their cheapest versions, the Xbox One S and the PlayStation 4 Slim, those also cost $300. And because they've been out for much longer than the Switch, they've already got a much more substantial library of games available. It's going to be hard to compete with that right out of the gate.
Yeah, but if the information they've given us during their big event is any indication, they're definitely making a bit more of a push this time. I mean, well, let's move on to the games because those are pretty much the sole thing I laser focused on. I mean,
Right.
the first thing I noticed was ARMS, a game that it's got, well, not going to be coming out at launch, will be coming out around the initial, like the first few months of it, and there'll be a trailer in the description, and basically you play as a boxer with Mr. Fantastic type arms, and you can either launch them really quick or from all the way across the arena at your opponents. And the thing is that you can use the Joy-Con controllers to curve them or deliver a surprise uppercut or a series of rapid jabs, and it looks like they're really looking to take advantage of the Nintendo Switch's new type of control styles right out of the gate.
You know, it just hit me. That could almost be a word for word description of Wii Sports boxing when it came out over 10 years ago. Did anyone else not realize that?
Huh? Didn't realize it until I was saying it just now. But it
Yeah,
Arms
that's
definitely
Nintendo.
looks like it has a bit more meat to it than Wii Boxing.
True. I mean, it's not like it's going to come packed in with the system at launch, though. Then again, none of the games are going to be bundled with the system at launch. Not even Zelda Breath of the Wild, which I don't quite understand. I mean, I get the reasoning behind it. They wanted to keep the price down, but they couldn't just offer it as an option. I guarantee you they would have sold at least 5 million limited edition Zelda branded Nintendo Switch consoles alone.
Hmm. Yeah, it does seem a bit weird, but you know, who can say if it'll turn out to be a good or a bad thing?
Yeah. Actually, before we continue, I want to apologize. I know that the last time I appeared on this show, I said we were going to keep things upbeat and positive, that we weren't going to come off as skeptical about the Switch. But it's not like we have a lot of information to go on, so we can't really sound excited about stuff that we simply don't know about. A lot of it is based on speculation, and there's no guarantee that any of the 80 plus games that have been announced for the Switch, there's no indication that they'll actually be developed and released at some point in the future. So we're just making do with the information we have.
I don't think there's anything wrong with having optimism tempered with the knowledge of reality.
I know. It's just there's a reality this time around that if the Switch fails, which it could very well be the last major Nintendo console, or at least the last major Nintendo home console. I'm aware that it's not directly replacing the 3DS, but mobile devices have been steadily chipping away at its dominance in that space for years now. So if things go wrong, we could very well see Super Mario Odyssey 2 on the Xbox in 2020.
That would definitely be a sign that the times are coming to an end if that ever happens. And
Yeah,
speaking of Super Mario Odyssey, now that was quite a bit of a surprise. It seems like Nintendo is offering either an entirely open world Mario or definitely more open world-ish than it's the recent 3D platformers like 3D World or the Galaxy games.
yeah. It was definitely interesting visually because, my understanding is that Mario is supposed to be like 5'8", and yet he's less than half the size of most of the human characters. I get that it's not technically based in the real world, it's meant to be a caricature, but you'd think it'd be a little more consistent with that. But visuals aside, I'm more curious to see how quote unquote hardcore it's going to be. I think it was either Miyamoto or Reggie or someone else who said during a Treehouse event that Odyssey was going to be aimed towards the core market with an experience similar to Super Mario 64 or Super Mario Sunshine. Is that correct?
I didn't really get that part yet, but who knows?
Yeah.
A lot of Mario games, even the most bright and colory Mario games like Galaxy or 3D World, have proven to have a real underbelly of extreme challenge.
Yeah, but the thing is, and we can both attest to this, that those more challenging segments, much as we complain about them, they're not technically required to finish the game. I think what's happening with this approach is that they're going to design it similarly to Mario 64 and Sunshine, where you'll have a large chunk of 3D areas to roam around in, where you'll be able to get through the main stuff just fine. But once you start climbing up the ladder and getting more stars or whatever the keys are to access the stages will be, then it's going to get outright sadistic. There's a word I never thought I'd say about a Mario game, but yeah, they can get sadistic.
It's true. Let's see. I'm just. I wonder if they're going to introduce any type of mechanic to make scaling really big things less like a boring trek, because Mario seemed to just be wall jumping up a huge building all by himself, and I'm wondering if they'll have any Mario weirdness like springs or those power ups that give him a bit of a jump boost.
It wouldn't be a Mario game without that now, would it?
Nope. The power up they seem to be trying to show off the most is that weird boomerang hat thing that Mario can also use as a substitute platform.
Yeah, that'll be really interesting. I mean, it looks like, speaking of Mario Sunshine, that hat, it's alive, first of all, which is creepy. And second, maybe they'll give it a voice and they'll turn it into like a regular sidekick, like the water pack from Mario Sunshine, where you use it for everything from clearing out mobs to running really fast to scaling tall buildings in a flash like a surrogate grappling hook. That would be cool.
It does seem to. The hat in the trailer did seem to indicate it would bring a lot of versatility. So I think the possibility of different modes, like with Flood and Sunshine, it could happen. I just hope that the hat doesn't all of a sudden grow a beak and start squawking at you. Like a certain Zelda game that I think we all know about.
God.
That thing was annoying.
Yeah. Though, speaking of Zelda, I'm surprised that they're not making it a Switch exclusive, again, to justify more sales out of the gate, because, I can see why it would be frustrating for Wii U audiences, but it's the only major release that's happening at launch, and Nintendo are trying to move on from the Wii U as quickly as possible. So why would they even have a version for the Wii U when it's on a console no one wants to bother with anymore? And from what I've read, is going to be an inferior version anyway from a technical perspective.
Who knows? Maybe this is just their way to give the Wii U just a little bit of a last hurrah before they close the curtain permanently. Who knows? That's just what I'm thinking.
Yeah. I mean, it's bittersweet, but I can see why they would want to give it one last send-off before they dig it an early, shallow grave.
As much of a success as the Wii U unfortunately wasn't, it was quite a system, and with a number of awesome games, and even though it wasn't all the time glittering like a diamond, I don't regret buying mine for a minute.
Yeah, I don't regret the adventures I've had with the Wii U as well. In fact, I'd say that was part of the problem. It was just frustrating because it was a lot more interesting in terms of its lineup than Nintendo was letting on. And I'm noticing that's still an issue. They're not doing a very good job communicating why people would want a system like this in the first place, and also how it's distinct, not just in terms of the software library, but also the controls. I mean, to go back to what was one of the more interesting revelations, why would you want to buy a system that has a last-gen port of Skyrim when you could get it on a PS4 or an Xbox, which has the enhanced special edition, which already includes all the downloadable content for a much greater value out of the box?
I don't know. Maybe Skyrim is just Skyrim is Bethesda, right?
Yeah, it's Bethesda.
Maybe it's just Bethesda's symbolic gesture of showing that, a lot different types of developers are going to give Nintendo's latest console a bit more support.
Yeah, it makes sense, though I've read that there are a few developers on the quote unquote hardcore end of the spectrum who might not even bother at all. I read that Gearbox isn't considering doing a Nintendo Switch version of Borderlands 3, for example. And I also read that Respawn Entertainment, the developers of Titanfall, they literally laughed at the idea of bringing that game to the Switch. I know it seems ridiculous, but to go back to an idea I brought up the last time I was on this podcast, just because people like us might not be interested in games like Titanfall or Call of Duty, that doesn't mean there isn't a significant audience that they can make a profit of if it was available anyway. It's about having a diverse portfolio to attract wide groups of players.
Got me there. That's a pretty good point. But until all evidence points to the Nintendo Switch being just a colossal failure, I'm going to at least remain fairly optimistic that it'll eventually become something really special, because I think it's the concept is too interesting to immediately write it off as something that can't possibly succeed.
Hmm. I'll do my best to keep that perspective too. But even if we do end up in a Super Mario Odyssey 2 Xbox One exclusive world a couple years down the line, I doubt it's going to be a disaster. I guarantee you that if we do end up in that world where Nintendo's IPs are made available for auction in the same way THQ's assets were a few years ago, Sony and Microsoft would not only drop a lot of money, but they would give Miyamoto and crew as much free reign and access to the hardware as possible. This isn't something they're just going to grab onto as a cynical marketing ploy.
Yeah, I think they would do it pretty well. Like, if Nintendo ever let loose their almost iron grip on a lot of their properties. Who knows?
Yeah, we'll just hope for the best, prepare for, I guess it would be the worst. And by that I mean worst case scenario. It obviously wouldn't be the end of the world.
Yeah. I think even if the Nintendo Switch doesn't prove to be as much of a success as a lot of us want it to be, I think it'll definitely be a sign of the end times if Nintendo's like classic properties like Mario and Zelda and them just start fading into the history books.
Um, yeah, that's something I didn't think was possible. But then again, if the past few years with Nintendo have taught me anything, it's that you don't want to rule anything out.
Yeah. But a lot of people back in the day didn't think that Banjo-Kazooie could go the way of the dodo.
Yeah, but at least with Banjo-Kazooie nuts and bolts, and I know some people are going to hate me for this on principle, at least they tried doing their own thing with the custom vehicle challenges. And you could say the same thing about Nintendo with the Wii U and the Switch. They may fail, but at least they failed on their own terms. It was a legitimate gamble, a risk.
Yeah. That's a good point. Well, I think that's quite a bit of it. I mean, there's not much to talk about unless a bunch of new information were to explode into the newscape right now.
I have a feeling there won't be for at least another couple of weeks, probably in mid to late February at worst.
Yep. Well, until that new news happens, we're going to say goodbye to everyone for now, and when next I do some recording, I'll hopefully have a whole lot of awesome stuff about PAX South to talk about, and PAX never fails to deliver really good games.
Yeah, that's true. And come to think of it, isn't Nintendo holding a Switch demo at PAX South? So you
Uh,
might have a chance to try it if you manage to be one of the first 10, 50, 200 people in line.
they are actually having an event there with the Switch, so who knows? Maybe the stars will align, and I'll be lucky enough to get hands on with it.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting if you do, and we talk about that at some point.
Oh, here's hoping.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
So, until then, everyone, thank you for listening to the PumpkinCopter cast, a good old podcast about video games. To any of the negative 8 people listening, if you could like, rate, comment, subscribe, do all that good stuff, it'd be appreciated. But until next time, I'm T Gorman83,
And I'm Ben.
and we will see you later. Bye.
Bye, everybody.